Welcome to the Punter, another hour of betting value for you. We'll find the opportunities in this Olympic Games. It's the Punter Olympic Stylie. They actually had to peel me off the TV screen in my flat to be here. It's been fantastic. Caught myself running home to make a rowing qualification heat the other day. It's not a good sign, a little bit of addiction going on. There's a lots going on in the Olympics, so lots for you to bet on. And I think a lot of value as well. There's been a lot of upsets in the Olympics so far, and that probably will continue. So we'll see if we can pick out some value for you. Now, in studio with me is Chris Graham and also Nigel Seeley, the bet butler, on the betting board. Chris, great to have you. Nice to see you again. Are you enjoying it as much as I am?
I think it's been absolutely amazing. It's been overwhelming. There's just so much going on. It's stressing me out a wee bit, but it's been absolutely amazing. And I think this might be my favourite ever Olympics. I think I've tend to find the sort of first half of your teenage years tend to be the peak of your life in terms of World Cups, Olympics and stuff like that. But actually, this could usurp Atlanta '96 for me. Unbelievable.
Wow. That's strong.
That's strong.
Very strong. I saw the track and field has started with, packed stadiums for qualifying. It's extraordinary. That hasn't happened at any other Olympics.
I know.
The public have basically made it, I think.
I mean, I've been at events the last 2 days, and there's just such a wonderful feeling about it. Everyone's happy. And in London, that is a rarity, I can assure you.
Yeah,
everyone's
really
happy and polite. Again, it's a
Well,
rarity.
it's because there's a lot of out-of-towners here. That's
Yeah,
why.
of course, that must be the reason why. Silly me.
Now, from a betting point of view, it's been interesting that, a lot of times when we talk on this show, we're talking about things like the Premier League, where there's an awful lot of, it's basically a solved problem from the bookmaker's point of view.
Yeah.
Not quite so with these Olympic Games and so many kind of minority sports.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of shades of grey, nothing to do with the book. But yeah, I mean, a lot of indecision by traders, a lot of confusion, if you like, and a lot of long odds on shots getting beat. I do not believe for a minute that every trader in the country has got 100% handle on everything they're trading. So you've seen 1 to 6 shots getting beat in the swimming. I was at the boxing yesterday, a lot of long odds on shots beaten there. So yeah, my motto here is do your research and the money will come to you. And I firmly believe that. No one's got a total handle on this. No,
it's great advice. And the other advice in the boxing is bet on the GB boxers because they're getting some very dodgy decisions in their favour. I mean, I love it, but it's a little bit sus. Now, we're going to talk Team GB, actually. We're going to talk football because the Olympic football team has gone from being kind of a non-story and a bit of, well, I guess kind of a joke at one point before the competition started to being something that people are really excited about. Just one more win away from a medal. It's been fun to watch, Chris. They've really grown. It
has been. It's really evolved. You're right. I think it replicates Britain's Olympics so far. Starting quite, averagely on Saturday and Sunday, and then really kicked down from there. And you think back to 2 weeks ago, that abysmal friendly against Brazil, where they were pretty much humiliated to get to the stage now where we're in the quarterfinals, beating a lot of people's pick Uruguay. I mean, I didn't have any hope at all. My 2 best bets in the Olympics, one was Mexico to win Group B, thank me later for that, and Great Britain not to qualify from Group A. So I wasn't a believer, Nick.
No.
They've made me look foolish, and long may it continue.
And if you want to bet them to win the Olympic football now, you can get...
It was 7-1.
Okay,
I think Nigel will tell us later, but I think Brazil are the 1 to 2 favourites, hot favourites. So it's really the position now, really, if you're a punter, is are you with Brazil or are you against Brazil? Personally, for me, I'm still I'm happy to take Brazil on, but I think I'm in the minority there. 7-1 Great Britain.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation about Brazil because they're playing so much of their first choice national team, but that national team hasn't actually done too much recently. So question is how much better are they than their competition, I guess. Now, Great Britain play South Korea. If they are able to get past South Korea, then they have a guaranteed medal. So a lot of people will be watching this match. Let's talk to Nigel, the bet butler, about this game. You've got some odds on it for us, Nigel.
Yeah, we have. Obviously, you say there about Brazil not doing so well. They've done slightly better than Wales and England, I must admit.
That's fair point.
I still think Brazil are absolutely fantastic value for this match because GB have to play them in the semi-finals. I think the value lies in the top half, but all the money's coming for GB. We say they're peaking at the right time, but so are 7 other teams in this competition. This is not all about GB. They were 12 to 1 to win it 4 into 7, but the match here, 5 to 4 Great Britain to win the game, just a bit bigger than even money. Would you be backing them? I'm not so sure. I think South Korea are very tight defensively. I think they've only conceded 1 goal in 3 matches. They've only scored 2, so there's not really going to be a lot of goals in the game. At quarter-final stages, in any major competition, you want to be going under goals, under 2.5 goals. Usually the goals come right way down, and I think the draw comes into play here at 11-5. I think Great Britain have great potential and great ability to get through, but will they do so in 90 minutes? I'm not so sure, and that's why they're a tempting price. That's why the bookies are going bigger than even money, 5-4, to tempt you to part of your money. I think South Korea will be very defensive-minded. They want to make it very tight. They don't want to concede early doors. You see what happened to Brazil when they played the British ladies there. But the draw makes appeal to me, 11-5. My theory all along in major competitions, when you get to the knockout stages, back the draw. We saw at the Euro 2012 how many games went to extra time penalties, and I think that's a strategy you want to do here, because usually in major competitions the draw is shorter than 2-1 at quarter-final stages. You're around about 7-4, 15-8. 11-5 is what you'd expect for an average Premier League game and an average group game. But with so much at stake, I'm going for the draw here at 11-5.
And Nigel, are they seeing any patriotic money, and will there be any kind of patriotic skewing of the price in this match, do you think, or not?
I see this patriotic money all the way through the Olympics, and my strategy of opposing every GB athlete hasn't really helped me out very much so far in the last couple of days. I think the problem here for the GB football team is that the GB national support has gone on the women's. That's where the punters are putting their money down. They think they've got a realistic chance. I think the fact that GB played Brazil in the semi-finals hasn't really, if they both get that far, hasn't really seen anybody part with their money. But let me tell you this, if the GB do get past the Brazilian side, then in the final, they will be absolutely backed off the boards, because no one will see anything, and you will see tremendous value on the Senegalese or the Japanese, whoever they play in the final. But as yet, I think it's the ladies' football team that are attracting the patriotic pound rather than the GB football, the men's team.
Really interesting, and interesting to follow the patriotic money and potentially oppose it through these games, although Nigel said it hasn't worked out for him. I think there's still value in doing that in a lot of events. We'll talk a bit more about a couple of them later in the show. Chris, how do you see that game going, and how do you react to those prices? Do you think GB are the right price or not?
Somewhat surprised to see odds against quotes. I expected, with the resurgence and the belief behind this team, which has been growing in the last 7 days, I expected it would be odds on across the board, 8-11, 10-11. So somewhat surprised to see 5-4. Really, and I think if you really feel that Great Britain can win this game, I think you've got yourself a fair price. I think that's a fair price. It's not. I don't think it's a patriotic price. I think it's a fair price. So I'd echo what Nigel said in terms of the draw. South Korea, very defensive minded, don't concede many goals, so you wouldn't be shocked at all if it was 0-0 after 90 minutes here.
Okay, you've moved us very neatly on to the correct score betting and what sort of game it's going to be. The chaps both seem to think it's going to be a tight one. Nigel, how does that reflect in the correct score odds?
Yeah, again, another market I've absolutely done my nuts in on this competition here. I mean, we said that the Great Britain side wouldn't score many goals in qualification. I said five or more was one of the worst bets in the history of the Olympic Games, in any Olympic Games. They've already scored 5. I mean, absolute terrible mess here. I think it's a quarter-final. It's a one-off game. This will be tight. I don't think you're going to get 3-0s. I don't think you get 3-1s, 3-2s. I think you want to be concentrating around these sort of 1-0, maximum at a push, GB 2-0. So if you fancy GB to win the game, instead of 5-4, back the 1-0 and the 2-0 there, and combined, that price is 11-4. It's a 15% and a 10% chance. It's around about 11-4, 3-1 that you get 1-0 or 2-0 GB. I think if you fancy GB, instead of backing the 5-4, back the 2 of those. This is where I quite like the markets. I said I like the draw. I don't think it's going to be a 2-2 or 3-3. I think we can write these off straight away. I'm looking at 0-0 and 1-1. Now, if I have a £10 on 0-0, £10 on 1-1, that works out to a 26%, which is, again, 11-4 shot. So instead of backing the draw 11-5, I'll have a 10 on a 0-0 and a 10 on a 1-1, and working out mathematically getting 11-4 for my money. That's where I'll be pitching it. South Koreans here, obviously, again, they don't score many goals, only scored 2. Their last 2 games in group qualification have been 0-0, so your stats are saying this is going to be low. The quarter-final says it's going to be low, and I wouldn't be surprised to see 3 out of the 4 South Korean games being 0-0. I think the thing is about the GB is they've got off good starts. Let's see what happens when the pressure's on. Let's see what let's see if this crowd that everyone's talking about has urged them through, the 75,000 housewives from Surbiton. Will they bring this GB team through? I'm not quite sure if it goes against them. So the longer the game goes on, I think it could be 0-0. But South Korea, probably their best chances are 1-0, 8-1. But I don't think they'll score. I think the Great Britain defence is very strong, and in Jack Butland, I think they've got the star to show as far as goalkeepers are concerned. So I think it's going to be 1-0 to GB, 2-0 GB if you go to that strategy, or if you're going with me on the draw, go for the 0-0, 1-1, and you get 11 to 4 for your money, both of them combined.
Okay, Nige, that was pretty comprehensive, wasn't it?
It was wonderful.
And he's found some value there, I think, in the 0-0 and 1-1.
I'm stunned that the 0-0's 8-1. I expected that to be around 6s. So 8-1 for me, I think that's a cracking price. Like we say, South Korea very tight defensively. Just conceded 1 in the group stages, and they're a good team. Let's give them credit here. They went through the whole of the qualifiers in Asia unbeaten.
Yeah.
They started a friendly campaign well, with 2 notable wins in that. Before the tournament started, and unbeaten in the group stage as well. So this is a solid side.
Seems like Gus Hiddink instilled that work ethic all those years ago.
Yeah, 10 years ago.
Never left them. Never left them. Nice. Just round this off quickly for us with the method of victory. What are the odds for how this game finishes?
Yeah, obviously you've got GB in 90 minutes as the favourite there for even money. Obviously it's 5 to 4 with other bookmakers. Shop around here. Obviously the best price you can get is 5 to 4 there. South Korea in 90 minutes 11 to 4. I like the penalties here. Great Britain on penalties 10 to 1. South Korea on penalties 11 to 1. We see in Euro 96, Great Britain, England in that time had the home support were involved in 2 penalty shootouts. They won 1 and lost 1. So let's see if that really they can handle the pressure. But if you fancy the 2 of them combined again, I like these combined bets. Back the 2 of them there, you're getting 9 to 2 a penalty shootout. So if you have a tenner on each, it's 9 to 2. You're back in the game to go to penalty shootouts. But extra time markets 10 to 16. But it's so rare the matches are running extra time now. If it goes to a draw, penalties is your bet.
All right, Chris, what do you like on there, Chris, quickly?
Extra time. I just think that'll just be enough. Yeah, Great Britain extra time 10 to 1.
Yeah, I think despite Great Britain scoring a lot of goals in qualifying, they're a little bit short up front,
definitely.
and I think they flattered to deceive a bit on the goals front, but very good defensively, as Nigel said. Well, we will all be watching that, I'm sure. Should be a good one, and hopefully we should get through, because I think the semi-final against Brazil will be a fantastic occasion. Should be good. Now, after the break, we're going to take a dip in the pool. Some big British interest going very soon in the swimming pool, and all of the other action from there, and more football to come later on in the show. So keep it here with the Punter. Welcome back to the Punter Olympic Stylie. We're talking about the biggest festival of sport on the planet, and what a triumph it's been so far. I hope it's been a triumph for you if you've had a bet or two. Perhaps things really starting to ramp up as the track and field gets going. But not all is done in the pool. We've got some great races still to come. And it's been fun watching the pool, hasn't it, Chris?
It's been absolutely amazing. My highlight so far.
Yeah.
I think the coverage is brilliant as well. The commentators are great. I just think it's been fantastic. And
how do you think the nation wants Claire Boulding to be moved around onto all of the sports, because she can actually do it?
She's great, isn't she?
Yeah,
she's so versatile, and she's a national treasure media-wise, with it doubt.
Yeah. And the Americans have really come through to almost totally dominate. I don't know what's happened to the Australian swim team.
Yeah.
It used to be that they were head-to-head with the Americans, but it's been a one-horse race a lot of the time.
It has been. Americans dominated. The French as well have done quite well. Yannick Agnel winning one of the key events there. But yeah, Michael Phelps as well, slow start, but he reasserted his authority last night, which was good to see.
And is there a sense the British team, while achieving elsewhere, have a little bit underachieved in the pool? I saw a stat that I think only 1 personal best from the British team this meet.
I think that's a fair shout, and I think a lot of people have been perturbed by the coverage of it. Like, oh, we couldn't have asked for any more. You finished 7th in your heat. Well done. I think they failed. I think, let's be honest about it, I think they've failed here, the swimmers, apart from Dame Rebecca Adlington, which I think we're talking about now.
Yeah, we'll talk about that now. And she obviously got a bronze in her least favoured event, the 400 metres. She goes in the 800 metres tonight, which is her specialist event. Nigel, what are the odds on this race for Rebecca Adlington to retain her title?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I'm a bit against the. I mean, I'm not like the euphoria that you guys have about the Olympics. I can't really relate to anyone who rows a boat. I can't really relate to anybody who goes shooting. I mean, they didn't go to the same school as me. I can't. I can't imagine a load of kids saying. I thought there was quite a lot of shooting.
I thought there was quite a lot of shooting at your school.
Well, yeah, it was, but yeah, different reasons. But there you go. But the thing is, but actually, you know what? I actually really like Rebecca Adlington, and I think the British public actually like her. She is a proper working class girl. She's done well. She's down to earth. Her family are there with her every step of the way, and I really hope that she does it. But now we get to betting. Issue 2 on shot, not on your Nelly. She is far too short. You've got Freese here. Only got lost in qualifying by 100 of a second, and I watched the race and she eased it for the last sort of 10 metres or so, she eased down. And I tell you what, this is a genuine race between the two of them. You can rule out everybody else. You can rule out everyone else. This really is a heads or tails job for me. I think it's as close as that. There's only 1/10 of a second of it, but Rebecca Adlington is 1-2 and 9-4 Freese. This is where the patriotic money comes down, and everybody puts their money in because they want to see it happening. Now, I'm telling you now, Freese at 9-4 is an absolute knocking bet. This is a genuine even money pick chance, without a shadow of a doubt, and you can get 9-4 about something that should be even money. I want Rebecca Adlington to win, I really do, because I think that she's a great asset to the country. I think she's been superb in the last Olympics, but purely and simply from betting, Freese, you have to be on her at 9-4. She is far, far too big.
Yeah, these two have had a rivalry from their junior years, I think, and there's never been too much between them. Certainly recently, I think Freese beat Adlington recently.
Yeah, one year one's dominated, the next year the next. I mean, Lottie Freese won in 2009 World Championships. Adlington came back 2011.
Right.
So it tends to take tons. In which case, it would be Lottie Freese who wins tonight if that's the case. So.
And what do you think about what Nigel's saying about the prices? Do you think she's too short?
I think he's right. I personally think she should be 4 to 6, 8 to 11. In my opinion, I think everyone in the country wants her to win the night, apart from Frankie Boyle probably. But I think where I disagree with Nigel is I think there's another person in this who's got a shout. Katie Ledecky. That's the price that popped out. That made my eyes pop when I looked at the odds here. 16-1. I mean, she was much shorter than that in the heats. All right, she was 2 seconds behind the other two, but she won her heat. But you know, do you want to read too much into the heat times? I don't know. This girl was recorded the second fastest time in the world this year, behind Adlington in this event, faster than Lottie Freese. She's the golden girl American swimmer, apart from Missy Franklin, really. She was born in 1997, around the same time as Tony Blair became Prime Minister. She's that young. But and we saw a lot of young swimmers, like the Lithuanian girl, prosper at these Olympics. So I don't think she's a 16-1 shot. I'm not saying she's got to win, but what I'm saying is she's probably, for me, a 6-7-1 shot, when in fact she's priced up at 16-1.
Well, it makes sense that if you've got a favourite that's too short, that you're going to find more than one of the rest of the field that's going to be a little bit too big.
Yeah.
And this is what we're always trying to do on the Punter, which is educate you a little bit and try and find value for you, even if it's opposing a national treasure. I can't even believe we're doing it. Good luck to Rebecca Adlington tonight. Good luck if you have a bet on that race. A couple of other big races coming up. Tomorrow night, the relays kick off. The women's 4x100 medley relay. Very prestigious race. Let's get some odds on that one from Nigel.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously the Americans against everybody else. I mean, the Americans have been dominant in this one. And I'll tell you what, I know Chris and Trevor Harris there, they back in these Chinese to win the top gold medals. They won't want these Americans at the top of the swimming pool here, because they have been absolutely dominant here. We've had nothing from the Australians. China have only had the one gold medalist all the way through. But this is all about America. Now, for me, we've had events where with these odds-on favourites have got beaten. We've had events where the Pedlington got done in the cycling. We had events where, you know, other people have got beaten on technicalities. What can go wrong in the swimming? You know, they can't drop the baton, they can't overturn, and this comes down to form. We've had people in this event in the swimming so far, 1 to 100 shots who got beat, 1 to 33 to 1 shots got beat. But I think odds-on punters are going to get their money back here, and I think USA at 1 to 3 are decent bets here. We know about the talent they have. We know about the people they've run, all the individual goals as well. They are 3 to 1 on Australia. So disappointing. They have to do something in this competition, in this relay here. 11 to 2 for that fact. They were a lot bigger than that, obviously, before the event, but now they're getting bigger and bigger. So a lot shorter. They're getting bigger and bigger because of how disappointing they've been in this meet. But USA 1 to 3. I do think the two of these, the men and the women in a double, is an absolute no-brainer. And I think odds-on punters will certainly get some of their money back. Not all of it, but some of it back with the USA at 1 to 3. I think it's a one-horse race.
Do you think they should actually be a lot shorter than that, Nigel? Is that what you're saying? They should actually be like 5-6 to 1 on or something? Yeah,
I think when you look at relay races, obviously with the 100 metres, there's always a chance of dropping the baton. We saw in Pedlington yesterday, technicality where she overtook. Here, this is just plain swimming. You know, it's just down there, and the Americans' times are so much quicker than everybody else, the four of them. And I think that there should be around about 5 on, 6 on. And I think the American men, who will come on to it later, again should be a lot shorter. So the value for me here totally is in the double. I don't think it's a great strategy to play odds on in the swimming. I think you would have had your fingers well and truly burnt on this meet. But I think here, I think class will really rise to the top.
Chris, would you go along with that? And if you do go along with that, how does an average punter take advantage of that kind of opportunity? Because it's not a working man's price, is it? 3 to 1.
It's not. I guess you just got to put them in accumulators and stuff like that if you really have a strong opinion, or empty the bank account, which I would never advise.
No.
But it's hard to disagree with Nigel here. US are the clear favourites. They won the World Championship last year by over 2 seconds, so they're the dominant force. But it's in my DNA to oppose America. I'm not a fan of the country at all, so I will oppose their buy back in China at 16 to 1. They're as short as 7 to 1 in a place, but 16 to 1 here for the team who won the 2009 World Championships at the event. They hold the world record in this event.
Interesting.
The other shot 7 to 1.
I like your random 16 to 1 swimming shots.
Yeah, I've got a 40 to 1 coming up.
Oh, this is exciting.
But China 16 to 1 for me, in the hope that they can overturn nasty America.
I've seen the American girls interviewed, they seem lovely. 4x100 medley relay for men features Michael Phelps going for another goal. What an extraordinary human he is. I was watching him do the butterfly yesterday. It was like a sea monster coming out of the top of the water. Amazing. He's done an incredible job of continuing his career with success. There are some total Michael Phelps medals bets going on cast at the beginning of the games, which are interesting as well. Nigel, word on those, and then also the 4x100 medley relay.
Yes, it's going to be his last ever race in the Olympic Games, isn't it? I'm sure he's going to go out on a high. I mean, this is quite some discrepancies here. I mean, some bookmakers have gone 2 to 7, other bookmakers have gone as short as 1 to 6. This is bang in the middle, the 2 to 9 price here. You know, I just can't see anything other than a USA victory. I know Chris will come out with some 40 to 1 shot here, or maybe something a bit later and give us a 16 to 1 shot here. But they are in such a league of their own, and the 4 of them are so strong individually, they could probably beat anybody here. And the reason why they are such good favourites is because how disappointing the Australians have been. And, you know, anybody could bat this side. I just don't think they can. The Japanese, 14 to 1. Germany, 16 to 1. Great Britain, just been so disappointing. All these countries have been disappointing. This is going to be all about Michael Phelps. It's going to be the Michael Phelps of the last event. The team will lift him up for it, and even at 2 to 9, I think they're absolutely no-brainers. And for me, I've got to put them in a double with the women's and take the sort of 4 to 6, the pair, because I'd rather take the 4 to 6 and the 6 to 4 anybody else upsetting the double, because I think they're so clear on the times, individuals, and the Phelps factor. And the crowd, everyone goes on about the crowd. If Adlington wins it, this will probably. So if Adlington wins tonight, I think Phelps in his final race could match the biggest cheer of the whole competition, and I think that will get the Americans home. Yeah,
it's a really nice bit of value you found there, I think. And what was the Michael Phelps gold medals in this Olympics? Was it 4.5 the over/under?
I'm sure it opened up for about 4.5 or 5. I think it was with a tie. Some bookmakers had the tie.
So those are going to have lost regardless, basically.
Yeah, I think where it's been disappointing is that obviously gold medals. People expect him to get a few more golds. I mean, but there was some people around, you know, after the first couple of races back and no gold medals at 33 to 1. Some Shrewdies and 1 gold medal, and he's obviously done that. And I think he's going to go out with one here as well. I think he's going to get to 3.
Yeah, amazing stuff. Just goes to show you how remarkable his previous 2 Olympics were. Chris, you go along with Nigel's...
Too short for me, America. Too short for me, absolutely. They finished 3rd in this race in the World Championships last year, so it's quite a recent event. Australia won that. France was second. And who won the very similar 4x100 metres freestyle relay? That was France then as well. So France, not even in the graphic, our production team have such contempt for my tip, but France, for me, 40 to 1. They won a similar race here on Sunday night. They beat USA in the World Championships last year in this race. 40 to 1, you're having a laugh.
Brilliant, I love it. A 40 to 1 tip in the pool, why not? I can't bet on the French, obviously, but I'm saying for you guys, it might be an option. Enjoy the finishing up of the swimming, and especially if you have a punt. Now, we're going to talk rowing, a sport we're really good at, after this break, so keep it right here. Welcome back to the Punter, part 3, but not a bronze part, because all our parts are gold. Probably. Can't actually back that up, but let's say they are. We're going to talk about a sport that the 2 men in studio with me absolutely love. This is the rowing part of the show. Chris, you got a problem with rowing. What's your problem?
No, I mean, I think it's great. What I find a wee bit uneasy is like people getting... I'm coming across as such a cynic here, but people... You use the word us all the time, Julius. Oh, how are we getting on? I didn't have any association
with Team GB.
Yeah, and things that are transparent things. You have a general feel for it. Rowing is something I really didn't, you know. I think, you know, I'm a working class boy. My dad worked in a factory for 40 years. I've got nothing in common with these people at all. And the commentary is just, it's too much for me. You know, the commentary, Gary Herbert, the guy who cried in 92.
Disaster, isn't it?
He's just like, Great Britain, so brave in 6th place, you know. Hang on, you know, it's almost like he probably gets up in the morning and sings God Save the Queen and says that I live in Great Britain, not just Britain. It's just too much for me, too patriotic, sorry.
All right, he would be correct if he said that. Nigel, not a fan?
I'm not a fan. I mean, I think the sport is dominated by the same sort of 4 or 5 countries every time. It's not like there's so many nations that are playing this, rowing in regattas. I mean, you've got to be obviously from a decent financial background, and I think I don't believe, my view of the Olympic Games, I think when you watch a football game or a tennis match, you're watching the best in the world. I don't believe you're watching the best rowers in the world, because I think only about 2% of the nation have ever got in a boat and rowed it. So that's my view of this, because there's only elite few who have been allowed to do it, who've got into rowing clubs and regattas. Now, we're always in the final, always in a chance. We've got the biggest squad, so we've got a great chance of winning it. And I think you saw today with the girl Granger, Kath Granger, I mean, they can find an event for you. You can keep going here till you're about 46 until you break records, or 50 years old till you break records, and they'll find an event for you. You know, the Cox's 4 or the Skull 8 or whatever it is. They'll stick you in one that's the strongest. And no, we'll win that one. We'll put you in so you can be an Olympian. I don't think you're specifically the best Olympian because you're in with 7 22-year-olds who can row faster than you. You can probably sit there, read a paper, put your feet up, and medal. Easy.
Seriously. But the bottom line is we're really good at it. So all goals count equal.
Yeah, I mean, it does. I mean, let's be fair. I mean, this is supposed to be creating a legacy and for sport going forward. I mean, I've walked here along the Thames. I didn't see a load of people in rowing boats going along the Thames. That's
because they're watching the rowing. They'll all be out there.
But if Andy Murray won Wimbledon, I tell you what, the tennis uptake and support for tennis in British tennis in this country will be huge. Rowing will always be the same.
Do you know what you have to do next, Nige?
What's that?
You have to talk about rowing in detail.
I know it's what you want to do. I've got some great views. I've done some research. I've taken the Chris Graham advice and do some research. I'll tell you what, I've got some absolute pearlers to come back on here, so don't worry about that.
All right, come on then. We'll start with the men's 4. Great Britain, the favourites, I think, as I think you just got a sneak peek.
Yeah, they were the favourites. I mean, they're 4 to 5 favourites. And you know what? I think they should be shorter. I really, really do. I mean, if you look at the times, people say look too much in the times, and Chris will tell you world champions of 4 years ago. What they did 4 years ago and what they're doing at a meet is totally different. I mean, there's a very, very famous athletics punter called Tony Ansell, and he says, you look at the heats, see who he's up. See, and it's so much in rowing, it's in swimming, everything. And I look at the heat times. Now, Great Britain beat Australia in their semi-final. They beat them by almost a second. Now, that doesn't sound a lot, but a second is a big, big margin in rowing, and that is what they're 4 to 5. Now, if you watch the race, which I didn't, but I'm reading reports, is that Great Britain eased to a 1-second victory. Now, the Australia 11 to 8, it is a 2-horse race, but as far as I'm concerned, if you've beaten another team in the semi-final, you've got the psychological edge. So at 4 to 5, you've got to be a better. If you look at USA, the third favourites, they won their heat in 6 minutes, 1 second and 72, which is a full 3 seconds slower than Great Britain and Australia. So if Chris can find a 33, 41 or 81 outside against these two, I will be taking my hat off you, sir. But I think Great Britain at 4 to 5 should be a lot shorter.
All right, it warms the cogs of my heart, Nige, to see you recommending some value in a Great British punt. That's really good news. Chris, you're on board with this? You're in with this?
We're not at all. I'm taking on Nige. I'm taking on Nige, my colleague. I'm taking him on because I think Australia are the bet here. I really do. Because
that's the exact opposite.
Yeah, I was watching the semi-finals, and you're right, Great Britain beat Australia in the heats, but my impression was that Australia, who led for 90% of the race, eased up towards the end, and I'm sure I heard Redgrave. I was working on my iTunes at the same time, but I heard Redgrave in the background saying he felt that they'd eased up and let Britain through. There was a sense of that. So that was why, for me, this is a toss of a coin, this race. It really is. And when that happens, what have you got to do? You've got to take the bigger price, surely. And Australia, at 11 to 8 compared to 4 to 5, is where I'll be investing my hard-earned. I think, me and Nigel have got the same reasons, but I think we've got different interpretations of it. For me, it's Australia, because I thought they were easing up, and they're the bigger price. Another reason to oppose Great Britain.
Interesting stuff, you see. Exactly the same information. 2 experienced punters come to a totally different point of view. It's fun, isn't it? Let's talk some more rowing. The men's double sculls is another final that goes off before the end of the regatta. Nigel, got that one for us?
Yeah, I mean, this is again here. I think this is to me, this is the best bet of the whole regatta. I cannot understand how Denmark can be 9-4 for this. If you look at the times again, Rasmussen at 6 minutes 33 seconds 25. That is a full 3 seconds faster than anybody else in the competition. You've got the New Zealanders who they beat by 3 seconds in their first semi-final. Great Britain ran again 3.5 seconds slower than the Danes. Yet the Danes are second favourites. Great Britain here are far too short. 2-1 is far too short. We see all the winners, the goals we have in the first event. I think they're a value. I will be backing them. In this one, I will be opposing Great Britain at all costs. The French 5-1. They ran a full. They rode a full 4 seconds slower than the Danes. The Danes almost. They won it in a canter. And if it was a racehorse, they would have eased up with a furlong to go. The Danes at 9-4, the best bet of the regatta for me, the best bet of the Olympics tomorrow is the Denmark here at 9-4.
It's really interesting you took that on, because I actually saw the qualification for that. Don't know what I'm doing in my life, but I did. And he's absolutely right. Denmark were easily the most impressive boat, and also have the best form and everything else. I don't see what the problem is here. This is a great bet.
I'm singing for the Nigel Seeley hymn sheet here. I think he's absolutely bang on. I cannot understand why they're no favourites. It almost makes.
Well, they are favourites, aren't they?
I thought 94 in the graphic there.
And Great Britain 2-1. Okay, so they're not even favourites.
Maybe that's changed since I left.
No, that's absolutely right.
You know, the Purchase and Hunter, the duo have had a bad year. They finished 6th in a recent regatta meeting. All right, they've improved, and they were second fastest qualifiers. But like Nigel says, Denmark qualified 3 seconds faster. Dominant display with the Danes. They are the best. We're renowned for being the best duo in this discipline, and for me, they should be odds on, but they're 9-4.
Great stuff.
Load the gun and get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. We found some value for you. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Nick, when are you going to get on to the women's lightweight double sculls? Right now. Nige, take me through the women's lightweight double sculls.
Yeah, I know. I've been doing a lot of research here. I'll tell you another thing here. Again, another bit of value, but again, it's sort of, you're either with GB or against GB in the whole market. GB here at 1-2, that is a bet. I'm telling you now, that is an absolute knocking bet. They should be 5-on to win this. We saw how dominant they were yesterday and this afternoon in Kath Granger's race. They were about equally as dominant here, but Granger was about 1-7. These girls are 1-2. They won their semi-final in 4 seconds ahead of the Greeks. The Greek comes second, wow. 4 seconds, and they're 2-1 on. I think in 4 seconds, in any other sport, if you were running 4 seconds ahead of anyone in a horse race or in a motor car or anything you want to do, you would be 1-10. 1-2, get on. In the other semi-final, the Chinese won it, and they would have finished 4th. They would have finished 4th behind Germany. So 11-2 China, and the Germans are 33-1. Great Britain 1-2, and absolutely knocking each way bet, knocking odds-on bet there.
Fantastic stuff. Chris, you with him?
I agree with that, and again, it shows you how erratic these prices are. You know, I think me and Nigel would probably put that in at 5-6-1 on. And you know, you really, if you're prepared to do your research, you really can find some supreme nuggets in these on-pick markets. Things that are too short, things that are far too long, and it's just a case of taking time, Nick, and putting the research in, and you will be rewarded.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there you go. You've heard what you need to do. So much different, as I said at the beginning of the show, from betting on something like the Premier League, where the research has all been done and you can't really catch the bookies out. There is value to be had in these Olympics. Now, for all you football fans, we're going to be talking about the Championship, giving you a preview of the Championship season, which starts very soon. It's coming up right after this break. Welcome back to the Punter. You're going to enjoy this last part. We're going to talk football, hardcore football, because we're going to talk about the Championship. Season is already upon us. Can you believe that? The Olympics hasn't even finished, and we're going to start some proper football very, very soon. And the Championship, as ever, will be a wide open contest, and also a place where you can make some money. A little bit easier than betting on the Premier League. Perhaps a little bit more kind of research and knowledge can benefit you rather than focusing on the Premier League all of the time. Chris, how does the Championship look to you this year?
Well, Leicester are favourites, which I do not understand. Second year in a row they've been short price favourites, and I just didn't get that. All right, they brought in Nigel Pearson, who's a really good coach, but there really is nothing to suggest since he's come in that they've improved vastly enough to deserve to be title favourites. So I'd be opposing Leicester if we're looking at the very top of the betting. I'd be avoiding Leicester.
And do you think it's possible to find a bit of value in these markets? It's certainly possible week to week with the Championship, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. A good strategy in the last few years has been backing teams to come up for League One. that seems to have done well. Norwich did it a couple of years ago, came up for League One, went straight up to the Premier League, and of course Southampton last year as well, came up for League One. Got promoted again, so that might be a strategy you might want to take a look at. But I've yet to spend 4 or 5 hours looking at this market, so I have to say my thoughts are quite raw at the moment. But I'd be opposing Leicester definitely.
Yeah, they feel raw. No, it's a very wide open. It's hard to have a strong view, I think, because it's so wide open. Let's get the specifics on that. Nige, take us through the outright odds for the Championship.
Yeah, there's without doubt. This is probably the most competitive football market I can remember for a long, long time. I mean, some bookmakers have got different favourites around about 8 to 1. The favourites there, but on the betting exchanges, it's about 10, 11 to 1 the field. That's how open it is. I mean, the Freaks odds here, they've got Leicester at 15 to 2. Totally agree with Chris. Flattered to deceive last season. Very inconsistent. Good manager. Good decent setup. If he's under pressure though, he could be. If they don't get off to a good start, he could be gone after 6 or 7 games because the expectations are so high there. The thing is, well, they've sold a few of their best players, which is not what you want to see if you're going for the return in the Premier League. I like Bolton, 8 to 1. I think if you look at Bolton's record, every time they've gone down to the Championship, they've always bounced back straight back up. They're very good at home. You know, in Coyle, I think they've got one of the best young managers in the country. Shouldn't be managing this league. They've strengthened the squad. They've got Sordell, who's playing for the GB football team up front, who's come from Watford. They've got rid of the goalie, Yaski Island, but the guy who replaced them last season, he was absolutely awesome. The name eludes me there very quickly there. But Wolves, 9 to 1, I think they'll struggle. Matty Jarvis, their winger, been linked with a move to Fulham. I can't see that. Leeds have been very popular. They've been involved in a takeover bid. Neil Warnock has done it so many times in that league. He's brought teams out. They've got money to spend. They haven't really spent it yet. They haven't flexed their muscles. They've got the home support as well. They could be a very interesting one. Cardiff, buying some good players. They bought Helgerson from Queen's Park Rangers, good forward in that level, and Blackburn and Forest. Now, Forest for me, absolutely one of the worst bets at all, 12 to 1. The players they're buying are sort of mid-table Championship, top-end Div 1 teams. Blackburn are buying some good players. They're buying Danny Murphy from Fulham, strengthen their squad. The managers survived last season, but will the fans get behind him if he has a bad start? But for me, Bolton are the value, 8 to 1. They've tried and tested in this division. They've got a basis of a Premier League squad, and they've got probably, I think, one of the best, with the best top 10 managers in the country in Owen Coyle. So Bolton 8 to 1, and each way knock. Yeah,
great overview from Nige there. I have to admit, I quite like Cardiff at 12 to 1. I think, in addition to the players Nige mentioned, I think they're going to get Craig Bellamy back, bizarrely, from Liverpool. I quite like them at the price.
Yeah, I mean, they've been knocking at the door for years. And a bit like Ipswich, about 15 years ago. Remember, Ipswich got to the playoff final so many times, and Cardiff have been finishing in the top 6, I think, 3 or 4 years in a row. So it is their turn, really, isn't it? Huh?
Yeah. Anyone not on that graphic that, you know, perhaps is a little bit bigger price that you can back each way or something?
Well, I'll start off by saying there's loads of negatives in that graphic. I mean, I think I can make a negative case for all the teams there. But I agree with Nigel. I think Bolton look the least negative, if that makes sense. Such a competitive heat, isn't it? It's almost as competitive as the SPL, but it's really, really competitive. But if I was to pick a team from outside that graphic, I'd pick Brighton, who are about 18 to 1. I must, you know, put in a disclaimer here to say that they're just pure off the top of my head. I haven't spent hours. I like spending hours looking at this division, but Brighton 18 to 1. Good first season in the division last year. Finished I think 9th or 10th. Good coaching, Gus Poyet. They brought in Wayne Bridge, a great coup for the South Coast club there. And I think they're definitely capable of finishing in the top 6. So you might look at them each way. I think about 18 to 1 for me. They're the thing that grabbed me in the odds.
Okay, very, very open then, perhaps a little bit more open than it has been in previous years to actually win the division. Let's look at the odds to be promoted then. Of course, all of the Championship clubs desperate to get into the Premier League. Nige, take us through that one.
Yeah, obviously this captions the same teams that we just seen there. I mean, Chris's point there about Brighton, I mean, the trouble with them is that Gus Poyet has already said he wants to manage in the Premier League. And if there's a job going off, I think Wigan, for example, if some of the big clubs lose Martinez, I think Poyet could be an idle replacement for that kind of position. So you've got to be very careful of that. There's a couple of teams who aren't on this caption I think could go very, very well this season. I think Watford, Gianfranco Zola, they brought in some real good players. I mean, linked with all the Inzagis and the Del Pieros, they haven't materialised yet. They've been some quality players from Serie A. And you've got them with money and Nottingham Forest with money. Nottingham Forest are 9 to 2 and 16 to 1. And Watford are sort of 40 to 1 no-hopers and around about 12 to 1 to get promoted. So Watford for me. And the other team I quite like, going back to Chris's theory about teams doing quite well, is Sheffield Wednesday. They've got a very young squad, a good manager in David Jones, and they've got the potential to bring in 30,000 plus attendances in every single game. So They on the other side, Mandricks has put money behind them. I think they could do well. They would be my plays on the Premiership, on the spreads. If you wanted to buy their points, buy those 2 points. On the promotion index, I agree with you on Cardiff. They're always there or thereabouts. They get to playoffs. They've got goals in them. They've got goals. The trouble is the manager. He had a decent first season last season, but they really were totally outplayed by West Ham. That was a real severe knock. They have to start off flying. I think Leeds are the interesting one here. I really do. I think if they could get off to a start, we saw what Neil Warnock did with QPR in this division. He's going to buy a lot of the QPR players. He already bought Paddy Kenny. He's linked with Sean Derry. He's linked with Clint Hill. He's buying players who, well, now that have seen it and done it and got out of that division with money as well behind them. And Warnock's influence in that division. I think they could be very popular at 5-1. Leeds for me at 5, very tempting. Obviously, this includes the playoffs. So you go through the playoffs. Bolton 11-4. I've already told you about Bolton and Cardiff. And if you were looking for a couple of outsiders, Sheffield Wednesday for me, and I would go for Watford.
Great tips. There's always one or two that get into the promotion mix that you wouldn't have perhaps picked at the start of the season, isn't there, Chris? And if you can identify them, you can do really well from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Leeds definitely. I mean, Neil Warnock, a magnificent human being in my opinion, has taken teams up to the Premier League on a number of occasions, and he, I think Leeds to be promoted is a shout. I'll tell you another one that's just came out of my mind. A huge price, Middlesbrough. I think they're 40-1 to win the title. Tony, it's taken him a while, but I think Tony Mowbray is now. He's getting things together. He's getting stuff together here at Middlesbrough after a couple of years, and they've been improving year on year since he's arrived. I think they finished just outside the playoffs last season. I can definitely see them finishing in the top 6 this year, Middlesbrough. He's buying the right players. He's a good manager. He's got great. He took West Brom into the Premier League. I think Middlesbrough at a huge price are definitely worth considering.
Yeah, nice shout. Let's take a look at the other end of the table. The one no one wants to be on, and the price is to be relegated before we kick a ball in the Championship.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of teams dominant in here, aren't they? Barnsley and Peterborough. I mean, two contrasting styles. Barnsley, very defensive manager Keith Hill. They brought in Mido. I mean, I don't understand that. If you're going for a relegation battle, who do you want to, it's wet Wednesday, you're going to Huddersfield, you turn around, you've got Mido. He's not really the person you want in the trenches and the battle of the relegation for the Championship. So Barnsley, worthy favourites at 13-8. They've got a good manager. He knows what to do to dig them out of it. But Mido is not the one you want to have in a relegation battle. Peterborough 2-1. We all know about Peterborough. They're the goals galore bankers. They're the ones that the punters always back in their goals galore. They score 3, they let in 6 every single week, and you can only do that so far. They kept their manager Darren Ferguson. He was linked with bigger, better things. He was linked with moves at bigger clubs. He stayed there this season. He hasn't moved away. Peterborough 2-1. I expected that money to come for them with Ferguson, but he stayed there. They've given him a new contract. He's there, but the defensive frailties they have will make them popular. Crystal Palace. They've got this young conveyor belt of talent, but every year it keeps going sold. Can they keep bringing these 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds in and nurture them before big clubs come and snatch them from their grasp? 130. Derby County 5-1. Big support. Never do it. Millwall. That would be the one for me. Millwall. I think they've tamed off. Very disappointing towards the end of last season. Kenny Jackett there was under a lot of pressure at the club. I think that Millwall could go, and if he does lose his job at the early part of the season, there's already a replacement lined up in Sean Dyche, a potential replacement at Millwall. I think they could be a team at 7-2 be a pressure. But for me, Barnsley, very worthy favourites. You just look around there, go in December, January time, and who have you got to get you out of trouble? Mido.
It's a brilliant shout. Are you a little bit surprised that Barnsley and Peterborough aren't shorter, Nige? Because I mean, I don't like to use the word certainty. We haven't even seen a game yet, but you'd find it would be hard to construct a scenario where those two clubs weren't in trouble, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think the difference is here is that you can, from my experience from spread betting, you can be 15, 20 points away from your original price. So you can make a price of 50 points. That team could get 70 points. You're not going to get games here, despite how bad Barnsley do. If they play Leicester or they play even Leicester at home, Leicester will only be around about 4-9, 2-5. Whereas in the Premier League, when teams like Reading go away to Old Trafford, they're 1-12, 1-10 to win the game. So there are capabilities here of teams turning over the odds, and what you have now could be totally wrong come 6 matches into this season. But with the Premier League, it's totally different. You're pretty much all the way through. The deviation on your points is probably only about 4 or 5. So for that reason, that's why there are. You could be bottom of this league, but you can quite easily turn over teams in 2nd or 3rd position, and that's potentially why they're not odds on. But I just think that Barnsley could start off well, But when it gets down to that's the business end, around Christmas time, that's when you see who's got the fight. And you need to be fit and you need to have a fight to get out of this division. And I just not quite sure of the calibre of their players they're in for it this season.
Interesting stuff. It is so much more open in the Premier League, as Nigel was saying. So much more fun to bet on, actually, I think. Chris, how do you see the relegation picture?
Barnsley are too short. I think they're almost insultingly always priced up as favourites to go down. There's no evidence to suggest that they should be, for me.
Well, they haven't. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on that.
Exactly. They've stayed up. They've never really been, in deep relegation trouble come late April any year I can remember. So just because they're such an unfashionable name and such a, if you hated Meadow and you had a choice, where could we put Meadow in the Championship? Let's put him to Barnsley. It's just the complete opposite. Meadow at Barnsley, it's extraordinary. I'll chuck 2 massive prices in there. Notts Forest. It's unlikely, but things could go horribly wrong. It just doesn't. The whole setup there doesn't fill me with immense amount of confidence. They've got a great new manager in Sean O'Driscoll, but for me, if you're getting on to 16, 18-1 from the go down, you've got to take it. And also a team very much on the wane, despite the fact they brought in some young talent. Blackburn at a huge price. They've bought Leon Best. He's out till January, they reckon, with injury. Things are not good at Blackburn at all. Steve Keane, that guy's unsackable. Doesn't matter. They could finish bottom of League 2 and he'll still keep his job at Ewood Park. So Blackburn and Forest for me, huge prices.
And do you like this kind of bet, the kind of pre-season? People often like to do. They try and pick the winner of all 3 divisions, or they try and pick.
I've yet to meet anybody who doesn't like it. It's just great fun, isn't it? It's great fun, and I think everyone's excited about the start of the new season. So, the grass is green at this time of the year, isn't it? Everyone, this is the year I conquer the bookies. This is the year I beat the bookies and conquer everything. So I think there'll be a lot of people, including me, sitting down over the next 2 weeks, spending hours and hours in the form book, trying to discover some value. And hopefully I'll come back here and provide better tips at better odds.
And anything you're kind of looking for when you do that, or anything that you're kind of hooking onto that you particularly like? Overpriced teams to make playoffs and stuff like that?
I always find that, like the Barnsley example, teams generally are priced up too short or too big on their name. We'll find that with Forest, they're now grossly too short. And for me, Barnsley are always underrated because of their name, like Wimbledon were in the 1990s. So yeah, look behind the veneer of the club, if you like.
Okay, and I have one quick thing on the Premier League that I would really like to get your opinion on, because I think I'm crazy. I think Chelsea are too big.
Yeah.
You can still get them at 5.5 to 1. I think they've bought fantastically this summer. I mean, quite how they're doing that within the rules, I'm not quite sure, but they're splashing the cash. They're the champions of Europe. They had a freak season last season where they finished 6th. 5.5 to 1. I think they should be second favourite.
That's a good shout, and they haven't shortened even with
these
signings, which is quite interesting. You'd expect them about 72, 3-1 now, but they still remain at 11-2, like you say. And yeah, I think you've caught on to something there, definitely.
Okay, we were running out of show, so let's just get the bets of the day. I think you had a couple of really big ones. Nigel, is your bet of the day Danish, and does he row a boat by any chance?
Without a shadow of a doubt, absolute certainty. I like these Danish boys 9 to 4. I think they're an absolute knocking bet against GB. I mean, I'm going to stick with this strategy against the GB competitors. I've said they've got a chance in 2 races, but definitely the Danes to me 9 to 4.
Excellent. That's the men's double sculls, if you're looking for that one. Chris, I think we all agreed that was a great bet.
That's a great
anything
bet,
else that stood out for you?
Katie Ledecky, at the prices, I must taste. I think she's got a much better chance than 16-1 to win tonight's race against Dame Rebecca Adlington. But so 16-1 Ledecky, you should get a serious swim for your money.
And have you got a track and field fancy in what's coming up?
I thought Jess Ennis was too short, but she's got off to a flyer. But Usain Bolt still for me. That could look ridiculously big
in about 9.5 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
It could look ridiculously
How did we
big.
miss that one?
Yeah, I think that's still my bet of the Olympics. Usain Bolt. I don't know how you can. I know that's Nigel's bet of the Olympics, or one of them. My other bet of the Olympics is still coming up. Quebo, the diver, to beat Tom Daley. I think you can still get him 2 to 1 on. I think it's a fantastic price. He should be about 4 or 5 to 1 on. Anyway, enjoy the Olympics. Enjoy your punting on the Olympics. There is value to be found, so I hope we found some really fantastic insight today from our 2 guests, Nigel, the bet butler, and Chris Graham in studio with me. Enjoy your punting. We'll see you soon for some more punting action, and take care.